There's Jess.
Okay, yeah.
But they were already setting up in there and I'm like, what's in there?
Thanks, Jess.
All right, I think Dave is going to be on in a couple of minutes. He was making some phone calls to cancel it. And he just found out that we're on, so.
So that was fun.
Yeah,
The meeting was canceled for 5 minutes.
leave it up to you to straighten it out, Jess. You're good.
You're in
Well,
the.
I think
Yeah.
Jessica, what this says is that we have to get our own login, or every committee needs their own login for Zoom instead of using one.
That would make a lot of sense. A long time ago.
Yeah.
We pay enough money for lots of other things. I think we
Mhm.
could not cheapen out and pay for a few more licenses.
Well, I think the commission should send a letter.
Well, we have
asking
it in
for
our, we have it
own.
in our budget to spend our own money, so we don't need permission from anybody to do anything that we don't want to do.
Well, I think we'd have to go through finance to pay for the service. Hence why we have those invoices on the thing tonight. But we can try to figure it out.
Yeah.
I definitely think after tonight, it's pretty necessary.
Definitely. Especially with
Jessica, Jessica, it's Mary. I'm in.
Hi, Mary. Okay,
How you guys doing?
good. How are you?
Okay.
You know, just the finance board's gonna be meeting a lot more now that the budget's coming up, so. This
They-
might
they-
happen again.
I know they have been meeting, but this
Hello.
never happened before. So
Right, yeah,
Hello, everybody.
I'll check their
Dave.
schedule, Pete.
Hey,
okay,
Dave.
I'm glad everybody, we could kind of get this scrambled around and get this put together. So I'm glad everybody was patient and we could do this. So I think it's, Jess, you let me know when you're ready to record and we can kind of get this going.
Oh, it's let me make sure. It's recording.
All right, then I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We're meeting remotely today on Tuesday, April 6th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody could please rise. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
The
flag.
flag, United States of America,
to the
And to
republic
the
the
republic
republic for which
For which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Great, thanks, everybody. Let's start with the roll call, and we would start if we were all in person, start on the side of the room where Mary would normally be sitting. So Mary, are you on?
Yes, I am. Mary Lopresti.
Thank you.
Pizza Brass,
John Kerwin,
Dave Sauter,
Pat Cocherello. Dan Wall.
Brett Olbreeze,
Jessica Pennell.
Steve McCary.
and is Kevin on?
Yes, Kevin McSherry, I'm on.
Hi, Kevin. It's good to hear you.
Good to be heard.
welcome back.
Okay. I heard from Jesse Schremer that he was not going to be able to make it, so we do have an open seat. Josh, I didn't hear Josh. He's not here? Okay. So with that being said, since we have an open slot, Mary, I'm going to seat you for Jesse.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Also, one quick housekeeping note for everybody. I know I can't believe it's been over a year since we've actually seen many of each other personally, but just something for the meetings. Somebody brought up to me as, feedback or whatnot, but it made a lot of sense. Whenever we're meeting in person in the meeting hall, one of the things we do at the start of the meeting is everybody guarantees to make sure that their cell phones are on silent. And I want to make sure that that we're doing that for this meeting as well too. We shouldn't be texting or doing anything, communicating with each other on the side. So I'm just asking for the commission members to make sure that their cell phones are are on silent and we're working with the meeting itself. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, we do the seating of alternates. All right, so moving down to the agenda, public hearings, recessed public hearings, we had none. New public hearings were none, and future public hearings were none. On the regular meeting business side, just to confirm, Jess, Pat, are there any amendments to the agenda?
None that I know of, sir.
No,
Great, thank you. And then after that, we have the audience of citizens. Hey, is there anybody out there in the audience of citizens that wanted to bring up something that is not listed on tonight's agenda? Again, to the audience of citizens, is there anybody out there that would like to bring up anything that's not listed on tonight's agenda? And third time's a charm, audience of citizens, is there anything out there that anybody would like to bring up that's not currently listed on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next up under regular meeting business is correspondence. And we have a couple of pieces here. I'll turn it over to Pat for a moment.
Okay, we have a notification from the town of Monroe that they're doing some modifications to their to their zoning maps and the like. So it's, they've notified adjoining municipalities. I guess it's in the documentation we've got. I'm not going to read through their regulations, but
I don't think
that's what we got. And we also have a letter from Attorney Thomas, which I don't seem to have a copy of in my packet. If someone else has it, they want to read it, that's fine. But I don't have a copy of it here. I could just note it. And I notice Attorney Thomas is here, so he can fill us in if necessary.
I have it, or John, do you have it? Or I can read it in one of us. I'll read. Okay, I'll take care of reading. This is a letter that was received from Attorney Thomas, addressed to myself, Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission, regarding 138 Copper Mine Road zoning enforcement. And it's dated March 30th of 2021. Dear Chairman Sauter, please be advised that I represent Timothy Kirby, who is interested in purchasing property located at 138 Copper Mine Road. My client is hoping to move into Oxford from out of state. It is my client's understanding that 138 Copper Mine Road has been the subject of zoning enforcement with respect to a structure constructed along the lakefront. My client would like to be able to purchase the property and reside in the existing house while he constructs a new home closer to the lake, which would be connected to the building that is the subject of the zoning enforcement. Given today's issues with housing construction, my client estimates the project would take 18 months to 2 years. Your zoning regulations permit a residential trailer on a property for 6 months if a house is being constructed on the lot. That time frame would most certainly have to be extended. The proposed extended time frame can be made part of the zoning permit for the construction of the house or in a caveat on the land records. The ultimate goal is a compliant single-family home on the property. I'm requesting that this matter be placed on the April 6, 2021 agenda to discuss the proposed resolution to the zoning enforcement issue with the commission, so my client can determine if he should proceed with the purchase and sale agreement for 138 Copper Mine Road. Thank you for your attention. Very truly yours, Cohen and Thomas, Dominic J. Thomas Jr. So that was the correspondence that we received. I think, and again, I'll throw this out there unless the commission wants to discuss a little bit more. I think this is something we can probably discuss under zoning enforcement. And that way, if Attorney Thomas is on the line, that's something he can be an open space where we can kind of talk a little bit more and we can talk about it with the commission. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a general point of order. I don't really know if Dominic can discuss the matter that's on the zoning enforcement. He doesn't own the property. He doesn't represent the owner. And reading this over again, what he's asking for, I don't think the Planning and Zoning Commission is permitted to deliver. We can't give a declaratory judgment saying, yes, we'll do a future act if your client buys a piece of property. So, I don't think it's appropriate. And plus then he's asking us to do something that exceeds this, even if we were permitted to address it, that exceeds the scope of what we'd be allowed to do with a trailer on a residential lot. So I don't know if Attorney McSherry might want to pipe in on this. I don't know if he thinks it's appropriate. I defer to him, obviously, but I see an issue there.
Actually,
Yeah,
before that,
I-
I saw Pat, I saw Pat had his hand raised, so I wanted to give Pat a second also.
Actually, no, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so I saw that. Okay,
It was a scratch.
it was a
Yeah.
scratch. Okay, very good. Again, the meeting environment. Kevin, hearing that and John's comments, any thoughts off the top of your head?
I think John is spot on with that. Unfortunately, when you're trying to resolve some of these zoning violations, you like to find a way of doing it, but the method and approach would have been probably, I know Attorney Thomas is representing someone who's a prospective buyer, but
Mhm.
we don't have the violator and the landowner in front of us to really deal with the issue. And that's an issue that we really need to deal with them. And I don't think it's appropriate to kind of speculate on what could happen in the next 2 years with straightening out whatever the problem is on that property. And now we have an answer. Well, that's great, but again, it does exceed our 6-month window of rehabbing a piece of property that may have been burnt down in the fire, things like that. That's typical trailer stuff. So yeah, I think I agree with Commissioner Kerwin on this one.
May I address the commission? Because I'm not asking for an action of the commission at this point.
Right. I'm just
So there's
wondering.
if my client enters into a contract to purchase a property that is in some zoning issue and the subject of zoning enforcement, okay, then my client would become part of the solution. And the solution can be handled by virtue of a zoning permit or by virtue of a resolution of a cease and desist order. So anybody can purchase a property that is not zoning compliant and subject to enforcement. And then there has to be an order to bring it into compliance. The order to bring it into compliance is under the enforcement section, not necessarily. I was just pointing out that there is a provision in certain situations for someone to be able to put a trailer on a property. I would assume the neighborhood would prefer something other than a trailer when there's construction going on. When you consider the fact that what is being proposed here would require a survey, would require a wetlands application, would require other actions, the Pomperaug District of Health. So it's a process that would take a good time. This isn't a situation where I'm asking the commission to say it's okay now. I'm asking the commission that if it wishes to engage in zoning enforcement, the options are to engage in zoning enforcement, tell my client no, and engage in zoning enforcement with the applicant and wait till that zoning enforcement is resolved in some fashion, which, since I'm familiar with the zoning enforcement, all he really needs to do is eliminate his 2 garages and then treat the outside one as an accessory building, and he's below the square footage. So my client had something different. He's interested in moving to Oxford and building a new house on the property. And to accomplish it within the framework of the zoning enforcement, he would then enter into a contract, and before purchasing it, would actually enter into an agreement for the resolution of the zoning enforcement with milestones and timeframes.
Dominic,
that
can I
would
just jump in there for a second? Because Attorney McSherry just said that it's not appropriate for us to address it. We read your letter, but
Right.
we really
I wanna
can't,
give
you
Yeah. I think there's things that we need to address here first inside. So it's just not something that we can address right at this moment.
Okay, well, all right. My client who's on this has an answer as to what, I mean, I don't think he will be able to proceed with it, but we'll keep our eye on whatever zoning enforcement you're going to do then with respect to the property to see if he's interested in it at some point down the road.
Very good.
I think
that's
that would be
probably-
the appropriate process, is that whatever our zoning enforcement action that we're taking is that we proceed with that. And if there is something that can be worked out amongst the parties outside of the commission, come back through the zoning enforcement process. Well, that's a whole separate issue and something the commission doesn't really have to get involved in at this point, and I think it's unnecessary at this point.
Well, I think that answers my question, that we can proceed under the zoning enforcement procedure. So I will contact then the zoning enforcement officer to determine whether or not, and I assume, Kevin, you to discuss whether or not something can be arranged to resolve it with somebody coming in to buy it.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's what the appropriate place to be.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Attorney.
Thanks, Dominic.
Okay, moving on to old business matters on which a public hearing was held, none. And then old business, other matters. We have Z 21-065 66 Perkins Road, owner Edward Majera, 77 Perkins Road, a letter dated 3/19/21 from Edward Majera. And I want to note first off, I think, and Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, this number that we have referenced here, Z 21-065, doesn't necessarily represent that we have an application on file or received. This was more, I think, for you made the suggestion, I think it's a good one, about having at least having all the documentation underneath one for record keeping purposes, to have it all in one spot. So that nothing from that has changed from the conversation we had yesterday, right?
Nothing has changed.
Cool. All right, great. Thanks. I just wanted to make sure because there was a lot of moving parts. So what Jess had done, and yeah, because basically just kind of give you the quick history lesson, and I know I've talked to a few of you about this. They, you know, we had one map a few weeks ago at our last meeting with not really a whole lot of context or direction, and we tabled it with the intention of trying to compile more documentation to figure out exactly what it is that we have. And that's something that I've been working with Steve on, working with Jess on. John has pitched in, Pat has pitched in. I mean, and I really appreciate you know, everybody in terms of, you know, what we've been trying to do. And probably the biggest takeaway that came out of all of this is that there's a lot of stuff here. And there's a lot of stuff spread out over a pretty long period of time. And what I wanted to do with it is, even if it's just a short type of meeting, I wanted to have a short pre-meeting with the with Mr. Majera and you know, his attorney if necessary, and Fred D'Amico, just to kind of get a clear shot. What exactly do they have? What exactly do we have? What exactly is it that they want to do? And just make sure that when they actually come in front of us, 'cause I think they need to come in front of the commission and talk to all of us. So that way, when they come in front of the commission, it's a clean shot in terms of everything that we have. Right now, just looking at the docs that Jess had sent out, you can see that there's a lot of stuff, and there's, you know, I think that, you know, there's good stuff in there, but I also want to make sure it's cohesive and in a way that's going to make sense for all of us to kind of look at it. So I know John had volunteered and Pat had volunteered for a short pre-meeting, just to understand exactly what they're doing and make sure that our ducks are lined up in a row, no deliberations or anything, but just kind of like we do on the economic development side. Let's just make sure take a few minutes to make sure it's right when we put in, because the last thing I want to do for this guy, I don't want to make him have to come back again. And that's I think the biggest deal with it for me. So I want to try and make it as easy as possible. My long-winded way of saying that is that I'd like to entertain a motion here to table this until we do this meeting over the next week or so that way we can bring back the complete picture to the commission next week. Of course, that's open to your feedback and discussion as well too, but that's kind of where I am at the moment with it.
I'd make the motion with just a brief discussion, Dave. Because
Okay.
just by coincidence,
I'll second for discussion.
Oh, thank you. I should have asked. Thank you.
I teach professionally in my professional capacity. And the Monday after the week of that last meeting, Mr. Majera was one of my students. And unbeknownst to me, he was signed up for this particular class. So I got a little bit of feedback from him, and he actually, the reason why I think it came back on the agenda, there was some confusion. He had some concerns about the appropriate way to go forward. He being a public servant similar to me, I think he had some concerns about there being, it being granted in the way that it was. So I discussed a couple of options, and I think, this is something that we need to address. When you read through, you see it's a difficulty for Mr. Majera. But I think a meeting that the chairman is proposing would go a long way to resolving it. We can kind of put our heads together. I had looked at a couple of cases in some of the case law that backs up the issues to this case. And I wanted to have an opportunity to just run them by Attorney McSherry, who unfortunately was not available 2 weeks ago. So I think that'll go a long way. There's a quick way I think we can resolve this, but there's also the potential for some liability for the town if we don't do it correctly under a road under 13-49 and that road acceptance statute. So I think it's a good process. And it was actually the reason why it was brought back was because of Mr. Majera's concerns. He didn't want to be in a position where it looked like he was getting something, that wasn't appropriate. So he wanted it to go before the board. And that, unfortunately, through a miscommunication, he wasn't aware that it was on the agenda last week or last meeting. So that was where all the confusion came from. So I think a meeting is going to go a long way to kind of ameliorate that confusion, and we can resolve this quickly. So with that being said, I think we have a second. Mr.
Yes, we
Chairman,
do.
I can see back to you.
Okay, was there any other discussion on?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to zoom in on that meeting whenever it's going to take place, because I do have the background on this, and I did talk with Commissioner Kerwin about this. And there are a series of moving parts that weren't really all that known at the time, and we were looking at it just as simply a paper road. And I understand Ms. Majera's point, where maybe if a commission looks at it, say, this is where I want to put my driveway, it makes most sense and appropriately for a commission to say that's where it should be going forward, based on some of the things that have happened with the roadway over the years, with water lines going through it and things that make it more than just a paper road.
The analogy of layers of an onion ever applied to anything, it seems to apply to this case. So,
Very good.
Hey,
yeah.
Dave, who would be involved in that meeting?
Right now, John and Pat both volunteered to be part of it. Kevin as well too. And again, if somebody's really interested in being part of it, that's fine. I don't want to flood it as well too, and in terms of the entire commission being there. It's not for deliberations, but more in terms of getting it in order. But if somebody's interested in being involved with that, just let me know.
I'm just curious if it needs to be posted as a special meeting and open to the public.
If it's more than two
Actually,
commissioners, yes.
Actually,
Yeah.
what's that, Pete?
If it's more than two commissioners, I believe you have to record it, and
Actually, if you have a quorum.
yeah, which would be 3 commissioners.
Four.
All right,
think
so
it's-
then we will keep it we'll have to keep it at 2 then.
I think it's a
Wait,
good
what's
idea.
that? Hold on,
Kevin in
somebody,
It's a quorum.
oh,
Four is
quorum
a
would be
quorum.
4. Quorum would be 4, so that would be, all right, so that would be the magic number. So we want to keep it at 3 or less.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, no, good point. And you're right. It's not something, this is very much in line. My thought process is what we would do, like with economic development. We have new businesses coming into town. We sometimes have, those sorts of pre-meetings as well too, to make sure things are kind of in order. So, yeah, to make it, more efficient for the commission itself. So, so Brett, then to your point, yeah, not having a quorum, we would not have to post it, but that's something we would have to be sensitive to. You're correct. And thank you for the background on that, Pete.
Okay, I think it's a good idea though to have Kevin sit in, the attorney.
Mhm. No, I agree, and I appreciate him volunteering. Okay, so we have a motion to table with this by John, a second by Pat. All those in favor to table till the next meeting, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposals, motion carries. All right, great. Moving on, next in the agenda, we have new business, schedule a public hearing, none. Item G, new business, application Z-21-064, 248 Oxford Road. Owner is T&J Realty, 3333 Main Street, Stratford, Connecticut. The applicant is the Oxford Axe Throwing, 54 Dorman Road, Oxford, Connecticut, with a change of use. And I see Karen is here. Remember you from last time, so
Yes. Good evening.
yeah, I was hoping you could kind of fill us in a little bit in terms of what's happening.
I sure can. So as you may recall, I think it was about the end of last year, we actually came in with pretty much the same application, change of use. However, it was going to be utilizing the space to the right of the Oxford Axe Throwing, and we were going to connect the two to join together inside. And it was also going to encompass the outdoor patio area. After getting that approval, there was some breakdown in the negotiations with the landlord, and it was determined better to utilize the space that they already have to do the same thing that we had already come to the commission for. So we had already come to you seeking a change of use to put in a bar within the facility. On our original application, that bar was going to serve beer, wine, and hard liquor and have the outdoor patio area. We're removing some of that and kind of lessening it with this application, in that we no longer have the outdoor patio area, which was some concern with people going in and out, and only doing beer and wine service. On the original application for the axe throwing, if you recall, it was beer and wine being brought in by the patrons. And this application, just like the last one, would cease that. Nobody would be allowed to bring any beverages into the facility. As I indicated the last time, this allows us now to better monitor, because the bartenders are serving the drinks. They can count the drinks. They can know who's having what. And plus, we're just limited to the beer and wine. So this is basically the same application we had before. It's a private bar. It's not open to the public. It's only good for the members who are in for the membership for the axe throwing. So I think we've described that all in the statement of use. And my clients also did submit a drawing to kind of, and you guys should have that, to show where the location of the bar would be, which is in, I think, what they call the draft room, which is basically separate from where the actual axe throwing occurs. Because you come in through the front entrance and then you go into this next room, that's where the bar would be. And then you go into the room behind that, and that's where the axe throwing is. So still allowing them to better control the consumption of alcohol that's happening in there and monitoring everything. So everything that we had agreed to and spoke about with regard to that last application that the commission approved, we would be applying to this one, minus those conditions that went to the outdoor patio area.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't have a problem with this, except for there is already an approval for more space in the patio. I would like to see, as part of the conditions of any approval for this, that approval be vacated. I think that's the proper term, or
Yes.
abandoned, or withdrawn, or whatever the appropriate legal is, so that it's not sitting there and, down the road 6 months, all of a sudden they start building the outside without it ever coming back before the commission. So I think if this is what they want now, abandon that previous approval. That's my opinion.
And that would make sense to us. They wouldn't look to keep the approval for the other space that they're not going to be renting.
We would need that in writing, of course.
Yeah, and I guess I would, and maybe Attorney McSherry could say, I mean, it's something that you've already approved, so I don't know if you can vacate the approval I don't know if I can withdraw or if the appropriate is more that you vacate the approval.
Well, that's why I used all the different terms, because I don't know. I'm not an attorney.
May I suggest that you have an application pending in front of you that you approve, if the commission wishes to approve this application, they approve this application and as part of that approval, void any prior approvals relating to this parcel. And I'm not sure what those specific things are, but I think that should be part of this approval. That way you'll have a cleaner record going forward on what's happened. And I don't think the applicant can, if the applicant doesn't act on something, they don't. But I think the commission can act by approving this current application and voiding the prior approval.
Sense.
Yeah, I agree with Attorney McSherry. I think we had a special, it was a special exception. Is that correct, Attorney Fisher?
Yes.
First time?
Yeah.
So I think it would have to be delicately drafted, and we might have to have Attorney McSherry draft the resolution, because in vacating that special exception, we'd have to adopt it over again. So I think we have to spell out that the purpose of this new application is just not to affect the liquor permit under Article 17, but just to reduce the space. So it's going to require a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Corwin, with what you're saying, because we don't want to lose everything else that we've already did. And it would just be that we would not be able to use that other location or the outdoor space, and that the bar must be physically located within the current Oxford axe throwing.
So maybe adopt all the original conditions except for the use with respect to the outdoor, and then, approve it that way under the new permit, under the new
Yes.
application. And
Because
just,
we had all those, I'm sorry, we had all those other approvals, and we went through to speak with, I think it was Sergeant Borowski, and they all put in their input. So you want that to carry over.
yeah, I'd hate to, in canceling that, lose all those, all your hard work there. And so, just for my own, when we approved this the last time, we had done away with the bring your own beer, bring your own wine.
Absolutely. There's no outside beverages allowed in,
Okay.
alcoholic beverages.
All right, I'd forgotten that. All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
John, I actually pulled the old application before the meeting just to compare it, and yeah, it was pulled the last time.
So it would make sense that this new approval would carry on a series of conditions that were approved from the last one, and we'll make it part and parcel of this one, and we'll eliminate the portions, specifically eliminate the portions that relate to the space and outside usages that were specifically referenced. So if we do that, I think that will clear it up, but I think we'll need to do that in a detailed motion.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's, I guess, where I was going, like I say, and I'm not an attorney, so thank you.
It's a good
Pete,
thing, Pat,
Brett?
don't worry.
Yeah.
Brett, Dan, any?
There's already 3 in the room. We don't need another one.
No, I don't have any input.
Pete, anything?
Set.
No, thank
you.
Dan, how about you?
No, what we discussed just now, what makes sense to me, I guess we can table this.
And Mary, I don't want to forget about Mary. I know she's hanging out on the phone also.
Yeah, no, I concur.
Okay, great. All right, so then at this point here, I mean, I think we've heard, and I think we're on the right path. And it will require us, some a little bit more tweaking and delicate work in terms of putting that motion together. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to table until our next meeting so we can work on that in the interim.
So moved.
Second.
Pat and Dan, thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, so then we will reconvene on this at our next meeting then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. All right. Moving along, shifting the paper over. Okay. All right, next up, we have zoning enforcement, and we had one item on here that Steve was going to kind of fill us in a little bit on. So, Mr. McCary, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everybody. Dollar General came in for a site plan, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and their dumpsters are constantly overflowed with trash. It's blowing all over 67, all into the wetlands. I'm on my second cease and desist with them. I spoke to the owner of Dollar Tree, the owner of the property. We're supposed to meet out there next week, but I want them to come in with a new site plan to show a new enclosure for their dumpster, because it's just, it's absolutely crazy when you drive by there. It'll probably be before you guys, I'm hoping next month, if they don't comply. If they do, I'll show you guys the site plan and we'll go from there. I would like them to put it behind the building, out of sight, out of mind. And that would control a lot of it. So we have to meet them out there next week, Mike Hurd and myself. And we'll go from there.
Steve, did you say Mike Hurd cited them as well?
Yeah, Mike Hurd cited him, for the trash blowing into the wetland, into the catch basins. There's a retention basin in between that property and the big blue building behind there. And I cited him, Schedule C, I think it's Section 18, the outdoor accumulation of trash and rubbish and debris. So they have to show that on a site plan to keep their trash there, which, they're not going to do. But it's becoming a problem.
Mhm.
It's all over 67 across from Little River Power. If you drive down, you'll see it. I've got photos, and I also updated the spreadsheet as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any,
Yeah, but-
yeah, go on. I was just about to ask, go for it, Pete. I see you.
Yeah, Steve, behind that store, isn't that the wetlands where there's,
Yes, there's all back there.
so wouldn't it be worse to put the container, put it back there instead of making them enlarge the side of the store for it?
If you walk the property, where Mike and I want them to put, it's not going to be in the wetland. The wetland that's getting affected is a retention basin we had them put in. But there's more wetlands as you go deeper into the property, but it's all filled with trash everywhere.
All right, I know what you're talking about. I've seen it before blowing all over there.
Yeah, we just, the problem is they don't close it.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago, we had all that wind. They have these big bins they wheel out with cardboard, and one of them went right across 67 over into Little River Power and A1 Pool and Spa property. It was everywhere.
right. That's
a
good.
lot of-
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for getting those signs up too. Appreciate it.
no worries.
Thanks, Dave.
Chairman Starter,
What was that?
Thanks,
I
Dave.
have one more thing if we can discuss. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I've been getting calls about people that want to put up, restaurant tents and, it's that time of year now where they want to do the outdoor dining. I've had, 3 or 4 calls from restaurants, so maybe we should talk about how we want to permit that, or I know Rolando wants to do one. A couple places in Haynes, Oxford Paint Hardware, they want to do one. Roses, they want to do one. Last year, we were under the COVID, but I don't see anything in the state regs for that now. So
Are we still under the COVID regulations?
I thought they expired.
I thought the governor extended that, no?
I think he extended outdoor dining.
That's what I
Okay.
thought so too.
The
I'll look
governor
into it.
did extend it under the same conditions, and he's hoping it's something that's going to stick and stay. So,
Yeah.
so I think
Okay.
you're going to say it's going to stick and stay, and maybe that's someplace where the commission wants to go going forward. How, if this is going to stick and stay, how that should appropriately be done going forward as a
Right.
process, because it'll be here for a while.
So,
Dave, I had
okay.
a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
On these tents and the outside tents we're talking about, when they enclose them, they come into a indoor eating. Without the sides on them, it's a tent. When they put the sides on them, it's enclosed. So therefore, the reason for the tent was to have open air so the air can flow with this pandemic going on. But once they drop those sides on it, it becomes inside eating, inside dining, inside drinking, whatever way you put it. Am I right? Or
You know what? You might be, but I think we have to look specifically at what's included, this new set of regs that's been extended for outdoor dining. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm not sure if it's one or two sides is allowed or whatnot, or how it comes together. So I just don't, unless somebody else, Kevin or Steve or somebody knows the exact answer to that. I think that's something we'd have to go back and check on.
I don't know the exact answer to that, and I don't want to speculate, but
Right.
it becomes one of those health quasi dining issues, which, it doesn't fall within our categories, I don't think.
What doesn't fall within our category?
Just trying to, I think there's a health issue and an issue in the governor's order that we have to look at. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
You're right.
Yes, we have to go back and take another peek at that. And again, it's so many things are happening very, very quickly. This rolled out along with a number of other things that were happening. So I think it's just a matter of, we're almost always playing catch up to get to the spot where we know exactly what we can and can't do.
Yeah, right.
Dave,
But no, well, hearing you loud and clear, though, I hear where you're coming from.
Dave, if I can just point something out.
Sure.
Actually, that letter that we got from Monroe, I was reading through it. It looks like they're addressing that very issue
Yeah.
in anticipation of the governor's order, which I've been following a little bit, and there's an indication that he's going to pull some of the emergency aspects. But people like the outdoor dining, and I think the restaurants like it. So Monroe, has a proposed draft we might want to look at and possibly put up for a public hearing to adopt something similar. So yeah, that's something I think we can all take a look at and, come up with some ideas. And
Yeah, maybe we can talk about it at our next meeting, after we all have a chance to review it and stuff.
Sure. And everybody has it in your packet. So yeah, reading assignment for 2 weeks, because imitation is the greatest form of flattery. If they've already nailed it down and it seems to make sense for us, then I have no qualms in terms of discussing that further and see what we can roll out here.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Sure, Brett.
So in the interim, what is the course of action if Steve gets a request to put up a tent while we consider this regulation from Monroe?
Well, I think it's going to be, like Kevin was saying, we're going to have to go back before the next meeting and start going into it and understanding exactly what it can or can't be. If you ask me that, are we going to automatically put our foot down and say no? I think we'll probably just say hold on until we understand what it is, or have it fall back on what was already previously part of the previous executive orders that came out.
Yeah, if the executive order has been extended, then we can just continue with that. Yeah.
I like Monroe's here, where it says a minor site plan. Get a small drawing, maybe come to the committee and say, here we go. It's really spelled out well. I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway.
That safety concerns in there also about away from driveways, away from parking lots, being enclosed with barriers between the park lot and the seating area.
Yep,
So that's what I liked about that.
yeah, I think people really enjoyed being outside, and, it's good for the restaurant. So they want to continue it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. The only other topic I wanted to bring up under zoning enforcement, and it's something that Steve and I were having an offline conversation about, and I think it makes sense to kind of help in terms of, our long-term goals of, documentation and making sure that we're looking at everything that comes in. We a few meetings ago, we outlined the process that if somebody has a complaint, that we want them utilizing the zoning complaint form. So that way we can start the process of, hey, we know exactly what they're saying. We can look and see exactly what the rule, the regulation that potentially in question, et cetera, like that. I think that should apply to all of us on the commission as well too. So if we have something, rather than just going and calling up Steve saying, hey, go check this out or go do this or whatnot, I think it's just as important to have that documentation from what we're doing as well too. And I already told Steve, yeah, and we're complete agreement with that. And I don't mean to surprise John and Pat with this, but if there's a lot of things that are coming in here and it becomes a matter of how do we prioritize it? If yeah, if it's something that I can't help out Steve with or something like that, I think he should be able to come to all three of us and be able to take a look at what we have, and he can, and between the three of us, provide some guidance in terms of what we, how we need to move forward with this, and that's for all of the volumes of complaints that are coming in. So I wanted to propose that out to the group as well too, and see if there was any feedback on that.
Hey, Dave, I got a question for you.
Your hand was up first. Go ahead, Pete.
I thought that what this commission was supposed to be all about. Steve come to the commission, not just like John Kerr was saying the last time when it was brought up about me and Pat checking out stuff. It was brought up that John said that you can't have just 2 commissioners or 3 commissioners doing it. Got to be the full committee. And now you're saying just 3 is going to run this.
No, we're not saying it's just 2 or 3 people. We're just saying that in terms of helping Steve prioritize what's next. If there's a volume of stuff that he has a resource that he's not sitting there trying to juggle it himself, that he has resources among the commission, to be able to talk to it. What I'm just trying to do is be able to put something in place where we're not just all peppering, Steve at different points in time for, with calls or whatnot. I want to just put a, be able to fill out the form, and that way we can figure out, how we want to work with stuff.
Well,
yeah, and what you're saying, but that's what we're paying Steve for. He's like, he's the only getting paid on this board. We're paying him for that, so he should be able to privatize that himself. I'm just asking, with all due respect, I'm just asking that, that's the way it was before, if somebody has crap in the yard, like Steve had that complaint about it. He got a phone call from the commissioner that says there was garbage in the yard. It was cleared up in 1 day. It didn't lay around. If we have to fill reports out, wait for you to get on it because you're busy, you work all day, it's going to take time for these complaints, and we just don't want to see them backing up. We want to get it done.
That's exactly why I said if Steve feels he's in a position where he has too many and needs help prioritizing, that's something where he would be able to reach out to us. I'm not saying he's going to bring every single thing he gets to our attention. It's something where Steve needs to have an outlet also in terms of, for everything that he has, that he can talk to somebody in terms of helping structure, in terms of what needs to be done if he has that sort of volume that he's looking at. Otherwise, no, I have no intentions of, micromanaging, what comes across him and how he does it. It's only when he gets overwhelmed, if there's too much coming in, and I want to make sure that we have some structure in terms of how we're going to him as well as anybody else in the public. That's all.
Yeah, Dan, I'm not trying to make it hard for you. It was just the fact that before, when we made it, we gave Steve a call. He usually took care of it 1 or 2 days. It took a lot of pressure off the commission, less paperwork and everything else. And then if it didn't get done, then we would fill out the complaint and follow through with a cease and desist, whatever the case was. So it was just trying to make it easier for less paperwork and less embarrassment for people online if they're looking in.
Well, Pete, I understand your point, but I think what we're trying to move towards is, a more regimented and regulated process. Like we were saying in the last meeting, you need to document everything. So, the phone call, it works, but then what happens when I make a phone call to Steve and then I resign, or I give up my post, and we don't have that same kind of a record. So, it's not that difficult to just fill out a form that says, here's a violation. And I don't think Dave is suggesting that I'm going to go out and be a zoning enforcement officer. Or Pat's going to go out and be a zoning enforcement officer, because we can't act as a zoning enforcement officer. We act only as a commission, as a part of a commission, and we act as a group. I think what Dave's saying is if Steve has questions, he can come to us with, if he can't get a hold of Dave, he can call me, he can call Pat, just to prioritize. If he wants to bounce something off of a commission member, that's fine. But I don't think Dave's suggesting that, I'm going to go out and issue a cease and desist order, because I don't have the authority to do that. No one on the commission has the authority to do that. By statute, the only party that has that authority is Steve under 8-12.
I understand that. I've been on the board long enough to know what you're talking about.
I didn't say you didn't.
All right, so I'm all set.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or thoughts on it?
The only thing I'll say, do you mind? Sorry. My
Oh,
plan
no,
is,
you were an expert anyway. I was coming back to say that you're going to be making this an online form to make it easier for everybody. So
Yeah,
that
so-
was the next thing to say. You better get your butt moving with it. So.
well, just to give an update to the commission, I'm planning on actually visiting town hall tomorrow. I scheduled time to sit down with Jessica, and if Steve's around, Steve. I'm gonna sit down and understand exactly all the issues and processes that they go through to try to document like the steps that are necessary to run that office efficiently, so that we can potentially build some of that into our revised webpage. You know, for example, these forms. You know, when a form gets submitted, what's the proper way to, or where does that form go? You know, is it recorded online? Does it go to Jessica? Does it go to Steve? Does it go to the chairman? You know, what is the proper way to move things from place to place and document it? So I want to get a good understanding of how it works, so that future direction with the web page, maybe we can incorporate that into the design and make the flow of information much smoother, and keep that information contained in a system where it's easy for us to view, extract, and add to it for the betterment of the commission as well as the department.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go down to town hall tomorrow, get a better understanding of the department, start to document some of the stuff so that we can incorporate it into a design for processes going forward.
I think it's a great idea, and I think that we all stand to benefit, from that. Not only Jess and Steve, but everybody on the commission as well too, to be able to kind of modernize some of that and make it a lot easier for everybody. So I appreciate what you put into it so far, and and where that's going to go. So thank you. Steve, were you raising your hand?
No, not
Okay.
at all. What time is breakfast?
From a month ago or 2 months ago,
9
Jeff has me
o'clock, Steve.
paranoid now when
Okay.
I don't see a hand raising. I gotta call right away. So, all
I'll be there at 9.
right, cool.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, Pat.
just a question, until this online form is available. Okay, now if I happen to see something, I drop Steve a call and tell him what I've seen. He goes out and looks at it and tells me, this is what I found or didn't found, right? In the interim, before we, once we have the form online, that's easy. I can just type in the form and send it off to him.
Right.
But what do we do until that form is ready?
I would use the form that's currently online right now and type it in and send it off to him. I don't mind if you can do a follow-up call, but I want to have that piece of paper, that documentation that, so Steve has that to be able to start a file, or if he has to do any follow-ups or something like that. I want him to have a starting point or a foundation to build on.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
And Dave, one thing real quick. So, the redesign of the page itself will take a little while because we have to go through, I have to go through Margaret, we have to go through the commission, understand how things are working, make sure that we've got the money, have the website, have the web company do the design, blah, blah, blah. In the short term, some of the forms are really, in plain English, crap. They're not really high quality, et cetera. I can easily redesign those forms and make them editable, in a PDF format, and upload them to the webpage so
On the
that
front
it's
page.
easier to fill out those forms, and maybe even automate it such that you could click a link and creates an email and it sends it automatically to Steve and or us. So that's a short-term solution that I'll work on as well.
I think that's a great short-term solution, just to be able to refresh that, make it a little bit easier to complete, and be able to click a button would go a long, long way. And when you were saying about putting them on the front page, so people don't have to go through multiple clicks to get into deeper into P&Z to be able to see it, I think that helps everybody.
Yeah. But the redesign of the page itself and some of the functionality, that will take a while longer.
Oh, yeah, there's no magic wand for that. No, that's going to take some time. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make sure the dollars are there to be able to do it.
Brett,
there's a lot of quick things, quick hits that could be real good while we're building on the bigger picture.
Brett, just curious, do you need any approval from, like the Board of Selectmen or
For what?
to redesign our webpage or, to have it interface with the town?
No, because everything is done through Margaret, and really it's just, even when I was on the website committee and I chaired it, it was really the purview of the website committee and or the person running it. Because really the web company already has access to our site, because that's how minutes get uploaded to the web page. They already have access, and all we're going to do is simply build a tool that allows us to house data and pull data more easily. So, I mean, we could go to the Board of Selectmen, but they always defer to the people running the site, which would be Margaret.
Yeah, if we don't have to,
No.
why
But
add an extra step? Yeah,
Before we do anything though, John, I mean, it would be brought to us here to explain it, talk through it, et cetera. So I'm right now just going to be working on a design of the page and the functionality versus implementing anything other than the short-term solution, which is just simply redesigning some of the forms and making them more easily fill out, making them easier to fill out and submit.
Brett, got a question for you. Before you
Sure.
change any forms or anything, are you gonna contact Jesse to make sure these forms gotta be changed or could be changed?
The forms themselves, when I say change them, they're not going to be changed. They're going to be the same form. It's just going to be, instead of it looking like junk and you having to write in with a pen and take a photo of it and fax it or email it, however you do it, it's just going to make it's the same form, just cleaned up and
Okay.
easier to use.
All right.
But no form is going to be changed.
So all these forms will be going to Jesse and Steve when they're completed, right?
Well, that's what I'll talk to them tomorrow about, is to understand, whom does it need to go to?
Okay.
And I won't implement anything until, of course, everybody understands what we're doing. But
Right.
it's just cleaning old forms up essentially for the short term.
Sounds good. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's gonna look really cool. Okay, I'm gonna go on to minutes. We have the March 2nd regular minutes to approve and the March 16th minutes that Jess sent out this afternoon. So starting with March 2nd, entertain a motion to approve.
Prove it, Pete.
Pete?
Second. Brett.
Brett? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that carries. Regarding the March 16th minutes, I do have to make a note. I did not read them at all, so I won't participate in this particular vote because I didn't get a chance to. I read everything. So, but if everybody else has had a chance to read them, that's fine. I would entertain a motion to approve those as well.
So be it.
Second.
Pete? Second, Brett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I'm just recusing myself on that one since I didn't look at them. I'll confess, I didn't see him look at it since this afternoon. Okay, next up is going to be invoices. We have the Adobe invoices that Jess presented here. So I know she sent out a quick email late this afternoon about that, but yeah, Jesse, did you want to talk a little bit more about that? I'm not sure if everybody saw it, so.
Did everyone see it?
I did.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we've probably gone through this before when I was paying for it, probably a couple of years ago. So, like the
And when I
email
come in
said,
tomorrow, I'll also show you a free program that
Okay.
allows you to merge PDFs and extract things. It's a very simple. So
does it
there's a
allow me
free.
to organize pages?
Yep.
Because that's a huge thing. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And yes,
what I'll do is, sorry, Dave. And what I'll do is, if it's workable, and I'll show you how to use it, then so be it. But
Okay.
I'll show you a free tool.
Okay.
Jess, just a real quick question. When you're in the office, are you able to do it?
In the office? What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Do what?
And it's only at home? Is it only at home that you can't do it?
No, I can do, what, I don't understand what you mean. When
Well,
I'm
no,
at
in terms
home,
of- Yeah, exactly. So in other words,
I'm still using the program, but,
okay, so you're using it in town hall as well as at home.
oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was something where you didn't have it at home and that's why you went to this. Okay, all right, so this is something that's been ongoing. Okay, yeah, so then you're right, because she's right, I use the PDF stuff all the time. I know exactly what she's talking about, and it's a royal pain in the you-know-what to, if you're not able to compile or combine files or organize or whatever, and that whole menu screen down the right-hand side, Jess, is a God save it, it's awesome. So yeah, I know why you need it, but if there's a free program to do it, that's great.
Yeah, I would
So-
suggest if the commission, if Brett discussing the free program, the commission should in the future, if they need, figure out a way to pay for, go to finance and find a way to pay for something so that whoever doesn't have to pay out of their pocket.
No, exactly. No, there's an annual license that you can do. It just becomes a billable invoice. So you can do
Yeah,
it that
I
way.
think-
Like that. Pat, I know you've been waiting patiently.
Sorry, Pat.
Yeah, no, you kind of half covered. You know, I mean, the cost of this should have been in our budget.
Right.
You know, Jessica should not have had to pay it out of pocket.
No, this is the first I'm hearing about it. I completely agree.
And I think that, you know, I mean, right now I'll make a motion to reimburse her for this.
Second it.
Second that right now.
Okay. And then from there, Brett, if we find a free program, if not, we can address it within our budget to take it out of her responsibility going forward. Okay, so we have a first with Pat and a second with John. All those in favor of reimbursing Jess for the Adobe?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And Jess, do you
Thank
need
you.
anything more from us to submit that, or are you all set?
Nope, I just have the motion. I should be good.
Okay, if I need to
Thank you.
sign something, just let me know and I'll come down real quick.
Okay, great.
And then finally, with other business, we had a few things in here that we kind of, carried over for a little bit. Kevin, it's so great to see you back and see you smiling and hopefully getting around just a little bit without doing more damage. So,
I'm moving around okay. It's just an interesting time, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
no, it's good to hear you. So anyway, there's a few things that were on here that I know you've been working on. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at it in the short time since you came back, but I'll throw it out there if you have any other updates to throw out.
Both of those, the Moose Hill, was just waiting on the selectmen to decide what they want to do. And they'll get back to us on that. And then on the other item, that's up to them to decide how they want to proceed. If they're redoing their mapping. So that's what we're waiting on. So.
Okay, fantastic. And just again, I don't think it's really news or anything like that, but just to kind of let you know, I know the action we took on the Tarby, that was the building up by the airport, where they were going to, I think it was the road or the driveway. We passed it at our last meeting, sent it back over to the selectmen. There were time constraints. I got an invitation for the selectmen's meeting tomorrow, and that's on the agenda. So I may get asked some questions about that, but I have the notes from from the last meeting and the minutes that just put in there. So that's not gonna be a problem, but just letting you know that I'm gonna be, that I might be talking about that a little bit tomorrow. And that's everything that we have. Is there anybody else has other business they wanted to bring up?
We're good.
I had a question.
Sure.
So Board of Finance meets in Town Hall. They choose to meet there.
Mm-hmm.
What's our plan?
I asked the first selectman about that recently, about the possibility of us getting back together for in-person meetings, because I know as much as we all love these Zoom calls, how nice it would be to kind of not see, how did John say it? Not to see each other just two-dimensionally for a year. Be nice to see us in person. The first selectman said that they were starting to allow that, and then he put the kibosh on it with the recent surge that was happening. And there was no timetable in terms of right now at the moment getting back into Town Hall. That's why I was kind of surprised with everything that happened a few minutes before tonight's meeting, that there was a meeting going on, because I was under the impression that those were not happening. I'll follow up again and find out. I also want to find out about these IDs, because I don't want to be in a position where we're sharing IDs and somebody else has a meeting scheduled. We can't be having this this type of show beforehand. That's not professional. It's not appropriate. So I'm going to check on that as well. And Jess, by the way, thank you for jumping in the car and flying to town hall. I know you're there. I see the brick in the background. So
Yeah. No, I was already coming here. So
oh, okay.
I was really surprised when I pulled in. I brought my daughter. I go, we don't even have to wear masks. And we came in, the parking lot was packed. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And it was the Board of Finance and the Agricultural Committee.
Thanks for all your
Okay.
hard work, Jess.
I'm a
Appreciate it.
tattletale.
No, I appreciate it. So yeah, so we'll take a look at that and see, hopefully not repeat that again. But Brett, duly noted, you're right. We really do need to get back together. So it's been March 17th, I think last year is when we went
Yeah.
virtual.
Yeah.
Has everybody gotten their vaccines? I'm just
No,
curious.
I have both.
I got one.
I'm all
Yeah,
good.
both.
Waiting.
I have been told that I can't get it until I'm off my antibiotics. So
Okay.
Okay.
Well, looking forward to the day that we'll all be together, because I know the Zoom stuff is tough. It's just hard, and it frays people. And I think it's time we need to kind of get back. And I think I may be buying drinks for everybody after the first meeting we get back together. So
It sounds good.
yeah, I think we need it. So
What I understand is that some towns have modified their meetings now. They've gone back to in-person meetings, but they also allow Zoom attendance along with the in-person meetings,
mhm.
which might be something that we could do in the future,
Exactly. And have that as an option as well. So I want to make sure we have the technology that we can, and the acoustics to handle that in our meeting room. But yeah, you make a great point. You're absolutely right. And I think once we get this last surge hopefully under control, and the numbers come back down, I think it's going to be by then a lot more people will be vaccinated. And I think it'll be a lot more receptive to going back in person.
Actually, Pete could tell us about technology in the meeting room.
You know where?
I was being facetious, all the work you would put in about upgrading the meeting room technology.
Oh, yeah, for a year. Yeah.
Yeah, for a year, and then what happened? Yes.
Yeah. No, thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. I guess we do it cheaper. And it's done, isn't it? Look at, we're online. Look at, it's done.
Exactly.
Thanks for bringing it up, Pat.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Now you wonder why I don't volunteer no more.
I figured at least it has to be known that somebody really did think this through at one point.
Yeah, you got a point there. Thank you,
Right.
Pat. I appreciate that.
I might look up that report sometime, Pete. You'll have to fill me in. So.
Yeah.
All right. If there's no other business, then 8:40 is not really too bad. So let's take a motion to adjourn and we can carry on.
So moved.
So moved.
Brett
Thank you, guys.
and Pat. All those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Opposed? Everybody go have a great evening. Thank you for
Have a
everything.
good night, all.
Thank you.
All right,
Good
guys.
Night.
Have a good one.
Thanks,
Take care.
Jess.
Good night.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, hon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jess, thanks for all the running around on this one. I really appreciate it. And John, thank you for starting to make calls that we ended up not needing,
Yeah.
but it's all good. Thank you.
No problem. Have a good night.
Have a
You
good
too.
night.
Care.